This case is highly unusual. The other officer cases tried in this court are distinguishable. This is not a cop found guilty of murder for using his knee to pin down a person for 9.5 minutes as he gasped for air. This is not a cop found guilty of manslaughter for intentionally drawing his firearm and shooting across his partner and killing an unarmed woman who approached his squad. This is a cop who made a tragic mistake. She drew her firearm thinking it was a taser and ended up killing a young man. Ms. Potter, will you please rise? Given all these considerations and having carefully considered the comments of the family of both Daunte Wright and the comments of Kimberly Potter, as well as the arguments of counsel, it is the sentence and judgment of this court that you shall be committed to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 24 months. You shall serve 2/3 of that time, or 16 months in prison, and 1/3 on supervised release, assuming no disciplinary offenses or conditional release violations. You have credit for 58 days already served. Restitution will be reserved. There'll be a fine of $1,000 and a surcharge of $78 to be taken out of prison wages or due within 180 days. You must provide a DNA sample. You may not use or possess any firearms, ammunition, or explosives. You have the right to appeal the conviction and sentence. If you are unable to pay the cost of an appeal, you may apply for leave to appeal at state expense by contacting the state public defender. You may be seated, Ms. Potter. I'd like to make a few parting comments. I recognize there will be those who disagree with the sentence, that I granted a significant downward departure does not in any way diminish Daunte Wright's life. His life mattered. And to those who disagree and feel a longer prison sentence is appropriate, as difficult as it may be, please try to empathize with Ms. Potter's situation. As President Barack Obama once said, learning to stand in somebody else's shoes, to see through their eyes, that's how peace begins. And it's up to you to make that happen. Empathy is a quality of character that can change the world. Officer Kimberly Potter was trying to do the right thing. Of all the jobs in public service, police officers have the most difficult one. They must make snap decisions under tense, evolving, and ever-changing circumstances. They risk their lives every single day in public service. Officer Potter made a mistake that ended tragically. She never intended to hurt anyone. Her conduct cries out for a sentence significantly below the guidelines. Okay, thank you.
There we have it. Former police officer Kim Potter sentenced to spend 24 months in prison, 16 months behind bars. A third of that time will be spent on supervised release for the killing of Daunte Wright. So that brings to a conclusion this very highly scrutinized case. I want to bring in someone who's watched it so carefully from the outset. Court TV anchor Ted Rowlands with me in the studio. Ted, you got to watch it all play out today. You were following this since its inception. Your reaction to where the judge went with the sentence today, please.
Well, I think Judge Chu was right on when she said that this is just sad. The whole thing is sad, and she did a great job of articulating the reasons why she came to this sentence that she arrived at, and she addressed the people that were going to disagree with her on both sides, which is extraordinary. You know, we see judges just boom, and they do their sentence and walk off. She knows that the world was watching, and I think, you know, you could disagree with it, but you have to appreciate the way she did it, the way it was so thoughtful, and I've never seen a judge that did it so eloquently with her soothing voice as well. But what a just an amazing, just sad story from start to now finish.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, so many lives were changed. I know, I speak for you, Ted, and everyone at Court TV, our hearts go out to Daunte Wright's family. I mean, it's just an awful situation. And it was a fatal mistake that changed Kim Potter's life forever, too. Someone who set out to do so much good. Now, one thing with this sentence, she still will have some time in her life to hopefully do more good. Tell me, what did you think when her attorney was talking about how prison so far being confined, or should I say jail, I believe she's been held in a jail, has affected her?
Yeah, well, I think that translates to everybody, right, that's incarcerated, and Kim Potter is no exception, but we are looking at her, and yes, she's an officer, so she's confined, and she's in solitary. There are thousands of people in prisons and jails around this country that are confined, and the light to that is I understand it, I agree, and I think it needs to be discussed, and solitary confinement is a major problem in this country. Should Kim Potter be treated differently because she's Kim Potter? Absolutely not. And I don't think that that factored in with Judge Chu's decision. Now, the argument that she could do good, you know, she could, and they filed that, you know, they were asking for probation, which was never going to happen. But they also made the argument that, you know, she does have little or no risk of reoffending, right? This is not someone who's going to do this again. She won't have access to a firearm. She won't be a police officer. But she could do good. She could go around and she can be that poster person to train law enforcement of the reality that this does happen, and it's documented that you cannot make this decision, you cannot make this mistake, and guess what? I did. I'm Kim Potter, and I thought that was compelling. And whether or not she does that 2 years from now, there'd be no obligation to, but it's something that we should watch, and it could be very interesting, because I do think that she could make a difference on that back end if she wanted to.
Exactly, Ted. We shall see. It was very clear from everything we saw today that Daunte Wright was loved. He was loved. He is missed. And Judge Chu's words at the very end, I hope, brought some sense of peace to his loved ones when she said his life mattered. And she said that emphatically. Ted, I want to ask you about who from the family members and relatives really moved you the most as you were watching from afar and listening to the stories and the feelings they were sharing.
They all did, and they did it collectively. They each addressed what the family has lost. And then they personalized it, each one of them, mom, dad, sister, brother, that the things that they personally miss on a daily basis, the effect that his death has had on them personally, along with the collective empty seat at the table. It is just absolutely heartbreaking. And if you put yourself in their position, could you imagine losing a child to this scenario? It's unfathomable, and that's, to Judge Chu's earlier assessment, this so sad. No matter how you look at this case, the more you look at it, the sadder it gets, because it just didn't have to happen. It shouldn't have happened, and there's no it's just so horrible that this young man is not going to be able to live out his life. And one of the things that was pointed out is that Kim Potter had more time as a police officer than Daunte Wright had on this earth.
Really something that I think resonates with everyone, that young life cut so short, tragically. Ted Rollins, thank you so much for sharing all of that. We want to bring in now Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae. She is standing by there to the courthouse where the sentencing took place. She was in there watching. Julia, what did you see, please?
Julie, the emotion that you're seeing on the screen is something that was reverberating throughout that courtroom, through both sides that were inside there. We, of course, saw that emotion from the Wright family. Katie Bryant sat through the entirety of this trial. It was extremely difficult for her. She took the stand. Aubrey Wright, Wright's father, also took the stand, but today they're able to share that pain that they felt because of the actions. They were able to take that aim at this defendant, something they couldn't do on the stand during the trial. But during the actual sentencing, we want to point out emotion from a place that we don't typically see. The Judge Chu, actually, after she gave the sentence and her reasoning behind this sentence, ultimately saying that Kim Potter was trying to do the right thing that day, that emotion actually got to her, and she was wiping away some tears that those who were inside could notice. During that point where Kim Potter addressed the Wright family directly, which is something that you could tell from their own victim impact statements that they wanted. Katie Bryant, Daunte Wright's mother, said that she was really offended by the way Kim Potter did not refer to her son by name when she testified in her own defense during the trial. So during that sentencing, when she was able to talk as a defendant to these parents, we noticed that they weren't really making much eye contact with her. Some eye contact from Katie Bryant, the mother to Kimberly Potter, but just so difficult for them inside of that courtroom. She was crying during that exchange, and of course we could see from our cameras Kimberly Potter also emotional while she was explaining herself, talking about her remorse, something that was very important to her defense's presentation. They were asking for probation, but we also want to point out, Julie, that the prosecution, even though they were asking for 7 years and 4 months, they actually also said that they were amenable to probation in this case, and they had a list of requirements if probation was going to be what the judge chose, and it gave many things that they wanted her to do, including what you heard during that sentencing, that she would go around and actually talk to people about weapons confusion. But probation was something that actually the prosecutor's probation officer found in their pre-sentencing investigation was appropriate in this case.
Julia, you were in the courtroom for this trial, and you saw Kim Potter testify today. You saw her speaking to the Wright family. Tell me, what were the similarities and the differences you picked up on with Kim Potter and the way she handled herself and spoke?
You know, Julie, she very quickly gets to emotion. We've now seen many trials where police officers take the stand, but very differently from her. You don't hear her speak really from what seems to be this police officer stance. You know, I'm just even recalling being in the courthouse yesterday for the trial of the 3 defendants in the death of George Floyd, which is a name that you continually hear even today during the sentencing from Daunte Wright's own sister talking about about her conversations with her brother after the death of George Floyd. But the officers on the stand in that case really seeming like officers in their recounting of what happened. But Kimberly Potter really sounds more like a mother or someone who is very affected by what happened. And I think that went a long way with this judge, with the way that the sentencing came down. It did not impact this jury because the jury did come back with still the top count of first-degree manslaughter in this case. But her demeanor still very similar, but seeming like she is able to open up more today now that the restraints of being in front of a jury were lifted, that she was able to say Daunte Wright's name, address him in a way that you even heard Katie Bryant say she would have preferred to hear from this defendant, and make that eye contact with the family, which is also something that they reference they didn't see from her throughout this trial.
Right, Julia. Yeah, speaking of the family, what was their reaction to the judge's sentence? Our cameras were fixated on the judge as she was delivering the sentence, and then, of course, the supportive rationale, you know, the facts and the law and how she arrived at that decision. We couldn't see how it sat with the Wright family, though. What did you see?
Julie, I think that's something that we are going to learn very shortly. We know they are going to give a press conference after this to explain what their response is to 2 years, because we know we heard them one by one saying they wanted the maximum, and really when they likely thought of the maximum, 15 years is what would be prescribed for first-degree manslaughter as far as a range. But because of Potter's lack of a criminal history and the things that warranted a downward departure, the prosecution only asked for 7 years and 4 months because of the sentencing guidelines, and then now to have the judge go even further down than that to 2 years. It will be interesting to see what they say publicly about this. And I do want to also mention this picture of the defendant when she was convicted, where she's smiling. And we're seeing that on a lot of the pictures and banners that are outside of this courthouse, because there are demonstrators who are outside, and they are showing this picture also next to that, asking for the fullest sentence as possible. But you heard the family say that they were offended by that as well, that she would be smiling about this in that picture before being taken away to answer for what was done to Daunte Wright. So I think there may be something that we hear from them now again once they speak out about their reaction to this sentence.
Julia, Janae, thank you so much for all of that. We understand we're going to be hearing from the family in just a matter of minutes. You're going to stay with us in Minneapolis. Ted Rollins is going to stay with us in the studio here at headquarters. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. When we come back, we will take you to that press conference with Daunte Wright's family and the family's attorney, Ben Crump.